Okay. I'll hand things over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for everyone who is listening in live and for those of you who will tune into the recording. My name is Dr. Kathleen Weissberg. I am the National Director of Education with Select Rehabilitation. I am also a researcher by background, so I share that with you. I've been in practice now about 35 years. And I have young kids who one of whom has gone through some bullying, and we deal with that. I think many of you have experienced that. You're experiencing bullying, obviously, in senior care as well. So I share that with you because what I bring to you today comes from some of my own experience, but definitely from the research surrounding this topic. It is, sorry, I'm just changing my view here. There we go. Definitely the research and what it would say we can do, we can say to address some of these issues. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in. And these are our objectives for today. We are going to just lay the groundwork. First, talk just very quickly about the incidents and characteristics of bullying behaviors. And then we're going to talk about preventative measures that you can utilize within your organization, and then some targeted communication, some targeted responses. And you'll see on the slides, these responses are literally in quotations, things that I found that I'm like, oh, that's a gem. That's a good one that we could use, or that's something that's very helpful. So that's our goal for today. And we'll start off again with our kind of the lay of the land. And you can certainly read these slides. But what is bullying? Again, if we go back to what the federal government would say is bullying, it's three key elements. It is unwanted aggressive behavior. It is a perceived power imbalance or a power differential, if you will, and then it happens repeatedly over time. So we need to have those three elements to truly classify something as bullying. Will you have bullying-like behaviors that don't truly meet all three of those elements? You betcha. And those are things that you have to address because obviously they violate in some way, shape, or form the norms, the standards of where they are living, the community in which these individuals are living. So when we look at the incidence of bullying, and it's interesting, this statistic has not changed for a number of years. I did quite a bit of research putting this together, and I couldn't find anything different from what was reported in 2012. And in my mind, I feel like just what I'm hearing anecdotally, it has to have changed. But again, I'm not seeing that in the literature. They're saying about 1 in 5 older adults report or experience bullying, but that probably is significantly larger, and we all know that because we're experiencing it ourselves. Many of our seniors are just not reporting. There's some level of shame, there's humiliation, there's fear. There's fear that if they report it to you, they're going to be booted from their apartment, or they're not going to be able to participate in something. Sometimes they don't recognize it for what it is, the fact that it is bullying. They don't know how to report. We haven't made it clear to them what that looks like if we're reporting. So I suspect, and I guess you guys would probably say the same, that the number is significantly higher than 1 in 5. Again, we know this bullying is happening in a lot of different places. It's really just any place that our seniors are sharing resources. So that is, in a senior center, that is in senior housing, that might be at a community outing, that could be in a stairwell, a parking garage, an elevator. It could be online. More and more of our seniors, right, are online. They're on some form of social media, whether that's Facebook or Instagram or whatever that happens to be. And people hide behind that sometimes and think that they can, forgive the way I'm going to say it, get away with the bullying because it is this virtual context. So we're seeing quite a bit of that. I think we also know, and hopefully you haven't experienced this, but we see most of our senior to senior aggression being verbal abuse. Sometimes we'll see some level of physical abuse, and sometimes it goes past truly just bullying, and it is now some level of what do I want to say? It's a criminal category, if you will. It's harassment, it's hazing, it's assault, or something like that. And we do see that men are and women are equally as likely to be involved in this. Excuse me, the types of bullying behaviors, again, just super fast. Verbal, you know what this is. This is name calling, taunts, threats, sarcasm, pointed jokes maybe about somebody's their background, their religion, a disorder that they have, a diagnosis they have. We see physical types of behaviors here. So again, pushing, shoving, kicking, punching, hitting, hair pulling, what have you. A lot of what we see is antisocial, I believe, more than anything, shunning, gossiping, the cliques. You'll see when I get to some of my examples, some of that type of behavior, excluding people. You can't sit here. You can't be part of the group, or we turn away. When we're speaking to someone, we ignore them, whatever that happens to be. And again, the big piece of that is a lot of rumors and stuff. And then, of course, damage to property is just what you think it is. We see some of that as well. So this slide is important, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but it really drives us to start thinking about what are our interventions? How can we speak to this person? What can we say? And, if you think about any one of us, we want to be in charge of our situation, right? We want to have control in that situation. And we do that in ways that are normal, I guess, by societal standards. And when you look at somebody who is a bully, they do that differently. They use power, they use control at someone else's expense. It is positively reinforcing to them to have other people feel threatened or fearful or hurt or what have you. And I think the things that stick out to me on this slide is that first bullet. They lack empathy. And that's going to be one of our big strategies on how we talk to this person is we come at it from an empathetic point of view. The other piece is that this person suffers from low self-esteem. And again, that's another one of our strategies. And we'll get to that here in a second. So the types of bullies, and this will play out a little bit more when we get into, I know the funny pictures, I see a funny few of you laughing. This will play out a little bit more when we get to some of our case examples, but that first person is a narcissistic bully. We don't always see this person, but this person plans their bullying. They know who they're targeting. They know why they're targeting them, when they're going to target them, how they're going to target. They really plan it out. Again, we don't see that person nearly as much as we see the impulsive bully, who, if the situation is right and they can bully, they're going to do it. They're going to take advantage of that situation, even if there are consequences, force ahead and bully. We know with the physical, the verbal, easy. Then there's that secondary bully. And we'll talk about this person in a little bit more detail as we go along. But this person goes along with the bully, not because they really want to bully somebody, but because it's survival of the fittest. We talked about those clicks, right? If this person goes along with it, they're protecting themselves, that if I play along, then they won't bully me. I won't be on the receiving end. And they probably feel guilty about it, but they don't do anything about it. And one of our strategies is going to be to empower that person to step up, because if that person intercedes or speaks to the bully in a certain way, oftentimes that bully stops what it is that they're doing. And that'll make a little more sense here in a little bit. So why do they bully? Again, I think a lot of this is pretty intuitive, but it sometimes it is this okay, hold on. Oh, okay, that's the third bullet. I want to make sure I go in line here. If they were bullied before, or if they were a bully before, chances are they don't grow out of that behavior. And it might not just be school. It could have been maybe in the military or something where, you had this good-natured ribbing maybe between different branches of the military or something. They're looking for a way to regain control of their life. They've moved into, now I realize you are all in senior housing. So this person may have lived somewhere else before they've come to you, or they've gone into assisted living or independent living or something. And I know that's outside of our scope, but they've lost some sense of control within their life and they're trying to regain that. It could be a reaction to sharing spaces and resources. We think about communal living. It's not for everybody. And if I want that independent space, I may see this. It may be aggressive tendencies in their personality that they've had forever, and that doesn't change just because they've aged. Sometimes it is stress maybe related to a diagnosis that they have. They have discomfort in their own body, they have pain, they just got a diagnosis, an exacerbation, whatever, and they just are declining health. They don't know how to deal with that, and they take it out on other people. Some conditions like dementia cause aggression, but that is not technically bullying. But what we see here is this person is taking it out on someone else. And again, sometimes that senior living environment may be the trigger for this person transitioning into a setting, and they're having a challenge. They're having difficulty transitioning. And again, something that we can be watching for. So the risk factors, again, I'm not going to read this specifically at you, but we look at passive targets. They're doing nothing to bring on the bullying, but they're different in some way from somebody else. That could be everything from, religious and cultural beliefs all the way down to how they dress. And then that provocative bully, or that provocative target, excuse me, who is a little more needy, they're a little clingy. And again, it's not their fault. The bully just doesn't know how to deal with that behavior. And again, they could be widowed, they don't have a support network, they could be living with mental illness, depression, they could have some sort of mild cognitive impairment, developmental delay, what have you. And then these are the signs that someone is a victim. And again, you can certainly read these, but it's not always easy to tell. I think you know that individuals have very different reactions to that bullying. So they could act out, they could have emotional outbursts, they may have negative reactions to, hey, we have an activity going on, we have an outing going on, whatever. You may see depression, changes in their mental health, what have you. And then finally, the impact. I think you know this, you're living this, there's no question here. But sometimes people say, gosh, I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything. This is just how it's going to be. And we kind of wash our hands of it, which of course we can't do. We can't take that passive stance. And of course, you're not doing that. But also recognizing that we need to nip this sometimes really, really early on when it is just verbal, or it is a click, or it is gossip or something, because we do see this escalate into some physical violence sometimes down the road. And again, this is not exclusive just to the bully or their intended target. People around that individual are impacted, and they are looking to us to do something, at least at a bare minimum, recognize it. Because if we are passive, if we are silent, it sets up this environment, this atmosphere where people don't feel safe. And again, that isn't just the other individuals in the community, that's us too. And I could ask for a show of hands, and I guarantee every one of you would probably put them up. You've been bullied too, right? For some reason or another. So again, whether it's us or whether it's other staff, it's our, the individuals that we serve, we have to address this. So that's our quick and dirty overview of this issue. So let's get to it. What can you do? The first and foremost, and again, this sounds so simple, you have to stop rewarding them or reinforcing them. And this might take some time. The reality is, they are trying, we'll talk about this in a couple different ways, but they're trying to get a rise out of you. They're trying to get a rise out of that target. They're trying to make you angry. They're trying to get an emotional response. If we don't give them what they want, it's no longer rewarding to them. It's no longer reinforcing. So we have to remove that. And this takes some time. There's no quick fix to this. You know that. You're living it, right? But that's where we need to go. We need to stop reinforcing them. So how does that work? How does that work? We start with something really easy, and we call it the comeback. What do we say? Whatever you choose to say to this person, or you can teach this to the other individuals in your community, what they can say to that bully. Whatever you say, you need to repeat it, and you're going to probably have to repeat it a lot. So the less emotional we can be, the better off we are. You don't have to be creative. You just need to be able to repeat it. And again, we don't want to be mean to this person. We're going to talk about empathy and compassion and such. Again, we don't have to be creative. We just have to have some comeback that's going to work. One of the things that we can do, whether it's us or we teach the other individuals within our community to do the same, is to brainstorm, practice. So here's that target, right? We can work with them to practice this, practice in front of a mirror, practice with me, practice, speaking to somebody else about it, something that you can say that's not going to give them a reward. Also recognizing, and this is really important, that what we say, and I don't think it's on here, is not necessarily for the bully, but it's for the audience around them. This person is, forgive me the way I'm going to say it, they're performing, right? They're trying to perform in front of this audience and look big and look important or whatever. You don't give them that satisfaction. If the bully can't perform with that audience, they're likely to stop. So, some of the things that we need to say. Again, we don't have to be creative. You just need to be consistent. Thank you. That's really helpful. I didn't know that. Well, okay, whatever you say, and you turn around and you walk away. And we'll talk about saying stop here in a second. And I think I have more on the next slide. I love some of these. And again, I took these straight from the literature, but I thought they were pretty fun. Okay, whatever. Do you feel better now that you've said that? If you're talking about me behind my back, well, clearly my life is way more important than yours. Rock on, buddy. And again, you turn heel and you walk away. Here we go again. This is really getting old. You let me know when you're done and I'll stop listening to you. So part of that is just a quick comeback. Some of it is, forgive me, sarcasm, a little bit of humor. I love this. Wow, did you come up with that one all on your own? Pardon me, but you seem to think that I care. And again, that is such a dig, but it's great. What it does is it pulls that power away from that bully. They're no longer getting a rise out of us. Now, can we say some of this? No, I think some of it might be a little borderline, but I think some of this we can easily justify saying to someone. Maybe we need to switch those words around a little bit so that it's not considered any sort of verbal abuse on our side. But again, you're looking for some sort of witty comeback to that person. Okay, so that's the first part. The next piece is empathy. That's why I pulled this out on that other slide. They lack empathy, but the reality is empathy can be taught. And when we look at empathy, and we're going to spend a couple slides on this, we go with the notion, when we look at it through this lens, all communication is a cry for help. So when that person is bullying, what are they truly trying to say? That's what we are trying to uncover. And I think it's going to come up on another slide, but maybe they themselves have been the recipient of hate or abuse or something like that, where they felt powerless and now they are trying to make somebody else feel the same. So, can we uncover that and give them the help that they need versus allowing the bullying to continue? Maybe they didn't have secure bonds in their life. Maybe they weren't taught how to express their emotions. And I think to myself, okay, there's an opportunity maybe for wellness, that we can have a wellness session on how do you work with your emotions? How do you express those in a positive way? Um, Maybe they've been harassed somewhere along the way. Maybe they've been tormented and they, when they bully somebody else, they feel like they're getting some level of relief or vindication or some retaliation for what they experience. So again, we can then pull from trauma informed care. How can we address that and help them? Maybe it is some, oh, hold on a second. I'm going to stop my video for now, just because my internet is going a little wonky. If it clears up, I will go back video on. But maybe they are getting some level of relief for that stress, that change. Again, moving into your community, or somebody they knew who lived in your community died, and they're dealing with that, but they don't know how to express that. So again, a lot of things can be going on there. Now, when we look at empathy, there are three phases. The first is something we call emotional sharing. We feel distressed when we see someone else, AKA the bully or even the target, in distress. There's empathetic concern. That's again where we have this motivation. And again, maybe the target does, maybe other individuals do, this motivation to care for that person who is in some level of distress. And then the final is perspective taking, which we're going to be talking about here. We put ourselves in their shoes, trying really to understand their feelings, their thinking, their actions. And instead of, if you think about the target, instead of them bullying the person who's bullying them or us getting mean or defensive, what if we love them? What if we hear them? What if we truly saw them for the individuals they are and what they might be experiencing? So that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about shifting perspective. And again, somebody hurts another individual. What do? We dwell on it, we magnify it, we think negatively about it. What if we shift that perspective and instead become curious? Okay, why are they bullying? Let's try to create a small space between what they're doing and who they are and look to our own actions. And I know sometimes this is hard. And again, this is something we can teach. We can teach empathy. It's love. I hate to say it that way, but that's what it is. It's love. And that requires a change in action. So maybe instead of getting mean or getting in their face, we do something small, a kind gesture for that person who bullied. And wow, that turns the tables. I wanted to get a rise out of you, and here you are being nice to me. I don't get it. That just backfired on me. Maybe you write them as a nice note or a card, give them a sincere compliment, offer them a smile, a pat on the back or something. Again, be there, be present for them. And the final piece is, and this is hard, forgiving and setting those boundaries. And I have another, we'll go on to this on the next slide. Forgiveness obviously is a skill, but it isn't easy. But when we forgive someone, it really sets us free from letting them hurt us over and over again. So I say to that person, okay, I hear what you're saying, but you know what? I forgive you. We're going to move along. And again, that kind of backfires to that person who wanted to get a rise out of them. And when we lead with love, it's not just for that person, but it's also for ourselves. And I'm going to go to the next slide and setting boundaries for ourselves. So this is leading with love. This is empathy. Instead of saying, stop, why would you hurt him like that? And again, we can do both sides of this because we're going to talk about saying stop. And I think really what dictates what you say and how you do it is the situation. And maybe you do lead with love, or maybe you need to have really those tough conversations, no different than you would, your teenager or whatever. So maybe there are times when you would say, stop. Why would you do that? Instead, maybe we could say, "Man, it seems like you're hurting, or you're such a bully. It's okay to be sad, to be angry, whatever, but it's not okay to hurt other people. You're safe. I'm here for you. You are not defined by this. I believe in you, and I believe that you can make a change. Can you help me to understand what's going on here?" And that's asking why. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. And again, when we look at those boundaries, I'm going to try to come video off on again here. When we look at those boundaries, those are within ourselves. I am choosing to walk away from this right now. I don't understand that you're hurting, but what you're doing feels hurtful to me. Again, I'm going to walk away. When you can speak to me in a calm and rational way, I would be more than happy to have this conversation with you, and I will share my thoughts and feelings. You can share yours. It's okay to say that. We don't have to tolerate this, and nor do the other individuals in our setting. So these next couple slides, hold on a second. There we go. A lot of quotations, and I'm not going to read all of these to you. You can certainly read them, but these are again ways that we can spark empathy. We're going to urge that bully, if we can, to put themselves in the recipient's shoes and recognize too that this doesn't happen in isolation. Bullying is happening for a lot of different reasons. Again, it could be trauma, it could be stress, it could be something else going on. They may not even realize truly that they are hurting until we ask the question and try to uncover it. And sometimes it's not, I mean, you know this, it's not just as simple as saying, don't bully. We have to give them the tools and the reasons to address this. So, again, simple things here. if you did that, if someone did that to you, what would you say? Do you realize that your behavior is just not nice? Have you ever stopped to think about how that's affecting this person, other people in the environment? Would you like it if that was happening to your mother? Would you like it if that were happening to your sister or your significant other, etc.? So again, some nice phrases that possibly we can use. And I go back to before I go on to the next slide, I go back to it doesn't have to be creative. You just need to be able to repeat it numerous times. And again, hopefully we can teach that empathy. I already mentioned this, so I'm kind of going back and forth here. There will be a time and a place where you do use empathy. There's going to be another time and place where we just say, okay, no way, stop. This has to stop. And we have, we say that very simply, very directly, and there are occasions for that. Most bullying, and this is interesting, most bullying will happen when peers are together. Nearly 90% of the time, that bullying is happening in front of a peer group. And again, that is that person, that bully's opportunity to get that power, to look important, whatever that happens to be in front of that peer group. Most bullying will stop in less than 10 seconds when a peer intervenes to stop it. So again, maybe these are conversations that we're having. Maybe these are conversations to the target that we give them some tools. Maybe these are to the peer group, because as that peer group starts to intervene, they have the power to stop their friend. And again, I think there's an opportunity to learn really in every situation here. Hopefully, the bully and the target could walk away shaking hands, being friends, recognizing the impact. But again, maybe that's not going to happen. What we want to do again when we say stop is addressing the behavior, what you see, and then emphasizing the damage that it is causing your entire climate, not just the victim, but everyone around them. So stop. We need to talk. I need you to stop treating so and so that way. It's hurtful, it's inappropriate, it violates our community standards. Stop that. You're bothering so and so, you're offending so and so. Okay, wait a second. It is not okay to make fun of another person, blah, 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 whatever it is that we say. So we say stop very simply, very clearly, very directly. We already touched on this, asking the why. This, what I love about this, I think, again, it takes a page out of trauma-informed care, is it views this person, the person's not the problem here. It's the behavior. And it's the behavior that needs to change. So again, there's always a story, there's always a reason, and it's really up to us to listen to that. That behavior is a form of communication. Try to get to the root of that behavior. And when they look at bullying, it's a learned behavior. Somewhere along the line, the more they did it, the more it was reinforced. Either no one stopped them, nobody did anything, and it was also, it was a bit of a reward, if you will. So this is an opportunity to have some sort of healthy growth, healthy change. And again, here are some of these talking points. Pick one that works for you. This behavior, going back to the why here, it's not the person, it's the behavior. The behavior is not okay. This behavior is not allowed. This behavior is just flat out not right, right? So again, pick what you want to say. But then we teach things that we can do. We reach out, we get help. And again, a lot of us struggle with what are the right words to say. I'm not saying these are the right words to say. You're going to figure that out. But the most effective messages are those that you can deliver in 10 seconds or other. Hey, man, you don't have to treat people like that. That just ain't right. That came from somebody told, I was in a session and they said that to me and I loved it. That just ain't right. So again, those brief messages really send that message clearly, quickly. Tell the person you need to talk. I need to talk to you. And that doesn't mean I need to talk to you. I'm angry with you. I'm reprimanding with you or whatever. It's more like, hey, let's come together. What is making you so upset? What's fueling this anger? Help me understand. It's a one-on-one conversation. Again, we can't be silent, because if we're silent, It implies to everybody else that the environment is not safe. We can also, in talking to them, give them an outlet for some of these behaviors. So they have these destructive emotions, and we can say, okay, can we figure out another way to address this? Maybe it's art, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's an activity, maybe it's right. I don't know what it is. There's something out there that maybe will help them to alleviate this. Okay, I'm just going to pause for a second. And I just see a bunch of stuff in chat. So I just want to just go in here real quick and make sure. Yeah, I just see some comments. Go ahead.
There aren't any questions that I've seen so far.
Okay, thank
with the
you.
slides.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just some comments. There's bullying of staff for sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So true and practical. I hope it's practical. Anybody who's ever heard me speak, I like to be able to walk away from a session with, at a bare minimum, some sort of toolbox that maybe I can go and implement today. So anyway, so tell the person you want to talk. You are there to listen. Acknowledge them. Again, this is getting to the root of the behavior. What is going on in their life that is making this happen? As they are doing this behavior, what do they have to gain? What do they have to lose? And I love this second quote here. Your abuse of others doesn't make you any better. It actually makes you smaller. And to hear that, I think is really, really powerful. The final thing, and again, more quotes, offering them help. Don't give up on them. Don't give up, but instead try to channel what they're doing into a more positive outlet, just what we talked about. And again, when we look at this, we teach by example. They think they're getting power by doing this, but they're not. They're not. They gain that power, if you will, in positive ways. Power given is power gained. So we want to empower them with some of those positive behaviors. You wanted attention, now you got it. So recognize that bullying that person isn't going to take away your pain and your hurt. It's not going to make it better. I can help you though. Let's talk this through. How can I help you? And again, I think some of this is crossing over, being forceful with that person, but also offering some level of empathy. So let's go into a couple of other sections here. And if you've heard me speak on this before, we've talked about some of these in the past. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but just to say, the things I think you recognize, then you're probably doing already. Just make sure you have clear expectations so you can go back to the person and say, look, you have violated our community standard. Add this language to your admission agreements. Make sure that everyone knows that it's unacceptable, and the individuals living in your community are the people who are helping to establish what those expectations, what those ground rules are. I love the idea of employee education, just what we're doing here. Some of these comebacks, these quips, some of these opportunities to provide empathy. I'm not going to hit on everything here. Again, you can read slides when you have them, but I do like those bullets in the middle. Everyone is treated with dignity and respect. Just because you're a bully doesn't mean that I'm going to bully you back, right? Everyone is held accountable. Everyone is responsible for their behavior, so that, again, you can go back to this person and say their behavior is unacceptable. And everyone within this community knows to whom to report. They stand up for what is right. And we'll talk about that when we get to deontology in a second. This is, again, wellness. If you're offering some sort of wellness services within your community, can we offer anger management classes? Can we, set those limits? Can we teach other people, some of what we're talking about here? And again, fostering that partnership, developing that trust. Interventions for the bully. Again, you've seen some of these if you've heard me speak before. If you see something, say something, do something. That's always going to be my mantra. Help them to develop that empathy, to expand their social networks. Oftentimes they don't have friends. Can we help them to get involved, maybe in an activity, to meet other people? Identifying other ways to to funnel their anger, their frustration, what have you. Positive communication. I love this. So for the bully, instead of lashing out at someone, they can instead say, I feel frustrated when this, or this reminds me of this. I don't like when. So bring it back to an I statement. Again, rather than attacking, we bring it back to something that is bothering me, my feelings, my emotions. And again, we do have to consistently set those limits. I think we've probably talked about this in the past, but so important that they are hearing the same message from everyone. So if you come up with some of those statements, they're hearing the similar things from every person on staff. One person isn't basically allowing this behavior because they understand it or they don't want to address it, but everyone is kind of on that same page. Interestingly enough, globally speaking, the interventions for the target are very similar. We want to teach them how to develop their own self-worth and their dignity, how to respond, some of those statements. Sometimes, again, it's those I statements. When you make fun of the way I walk, I feel so embarrassed. Or when you make fun of my issue with my speech, gosh, it's just humiliating in front of other people. I wish you wouldn't do that. Encouraging that target and others around them to stand up for their rights and again to address this bully. We talked about the peer getting involved, excuse me, and helping to de-escalate that situation. Some other ways that seniors can counter bullying. So again, think twice before we tell somebody to just ignore them. Not the right answer. Now, we can certainly teach them, hey, somebody is doing this to you. You can say something, turn around and walk away. That's one thing. But just ignoring them is not the right answer because that bullying is going to get far worse before it gets better. So again, what we have to teach is that statement that they come back with. Obviously teaching the reporting, who, what, when, where, and most important, witnesses. Those are our 5 W's here. Make sure that everyone knows what to do. Maybe it's, and maybe you don't have families visiting, but if you do, take note of that bullying in action. They can share with us what they've seen or what, possibly is causing this. We've already talked about this. Don't react to the intimidation. Stay composed, stay grounded, look that bully in the eye, call them by name, come with your comeback, whatever that happens to be. Maybe depending on how bad the bullying is, as long as that person doesn't feel like they're at risk, they're scared, they're threatened, what have you, maybe they can try to work it out as a first step, or maybe we as staff can try to work it out. We don't have to do that. But again, feel empowered. Let that person know, specifically the target, that we are there to help them. I said this early on, and I think these last 3 bullets kind of go hand in hand. They want us to react. If we don't react, if we don't get angry, if we don't have those facial expressions, the body language, the nonverbals, what have you, we're not giving them what they want. They want that reaction. And as soon as they realize they don't have that power, whether it's over us or the target, whatever, they walk away. They should stop. And again, it may not happen right away, but eventually they lose that power and it stops. We talked about some of this. And again, these are some coping strategies. And I'm not saying ignore, but I am saying, this person keeps coming at you. You see them coming at you, walk the other way. Concentrate on doing something else. Count to 100. Take a couple deep breaths, whatever. That person, that bully is never going to see how upset maybe that they made that person. Again, you take away their power. Just keep walking. They keep talking to you. They keep talking to you. You just keep going. No matter what they say, you move away. And again, they call them names, whatever, you names, just look in their eyes, say something, you laugh, whatever, no additional conversation. What did you do? You just took their power from up here. You ratcheted it down a few notches. And again, you've taken that from them. And I think we've said all of these, so I'm not going to go back through these. Let's talk about some do's and don'ts, and then I do want to open it up to some case studies. Some don'ts. I think we know this. Don't fight back. Don't bully back. And we see that, don't we? Sometimes when we give that target that level of empowerment, we teach them some of those skills, they become a target bully. right? They take it the next level. We need to teach them, no, there's a point where obviously where they need to stop. For the target, again, don't keep it to themselves. It's not going to go away. We do need to address it. Don't skip an activity. Don't skip a meal. Don't, walk away from things. Be there, be forward facing, be confident to do that because ultimately we have your back. We are going to protect you. We're going to help to intervene as well. And of course, don't hurt yourself. And that may sound really basic, but gosh, you see it. If you don't see it in senior living, we're seeing it with our adolescents, how many take their lives because they've been bullied to such an extreme. Nothing is ever that bad. For us, some do's. We do this. Intervene immediately, right? And it's okay to get somebody else to help here. We want to separate those individuals involved, make sure everyone is safe. That is the first thing that we want to do. Get any sort of mental health counseling that we need, medical, whatever it is. Bring in the authorities if it's gone past bullying and it's assault or it's resident abuse or something like that. Obviously, we want to model respectful behavior. And again, that's where we have to just be very cautious on what we say. I think, we can say a lot of these things and still be very, very respectful of that individual. So there's just a comment in chat, and I just want to read this. I use this personally. I taught my kids, and I share with my residents and staff when dealing with a bully. Kill them with kindness. You betcha. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, and I see you there. You've been nodding this whole time, so I think you're there. And I totally agree. It's coming back to empathy because empathy will always, again, it'll kill them with kindness and it takes away that power. So thank you for sharing. I like these, and I'm going to read every one of these because I think this is important. Don't ignore it. They're not always going to be able to work it out on their own. And sometimes we think, oh gosh, these are adults, they're going to figure it out. And the reality is, oftentimes, they don't. Don't immediately try to get all the facts and sort them out. Get everybody to safety, do those immediate interventions first, then go on your fact finding mission because you're going to have to find out what happened, but it's going to take you some time. Don't force people. So you get to a situation, you're like, whoa, okay, what in the world is happening here? Don't force people to say in front of others what they saw because they might be intimidated. They may not want to speak up. Figure out what works in your community so that that person has a safe place to come and talk to you about it. Maybe it's anonymous in some way. I don't know, but figure that out. Don't question the bully or the target in front of everybody else. That makes perfect sense. Don't talk to those two people together. I think sometimes we make that mistake. And I see that sometimes going in a totally different direction in our school systems and such, where we bring them together. That's not the right answer. Let's do this separately because we'll have one story on this side, one story on this side, and that, truth is somewhere in the middle. Don't make them apologize. Don't make them patch up. Not necessarily on the spot, maybe not ever. Maybe we have to just agree to disagree. And I'm sure every one of us knows somebody that we agree to disagree with. We don't have to be friends. We do have to live together, though. And we have to make this a situation where we can live together without fighting, without being mean, what have you. We don't have to talk to each other. We don't have to be friends. We don't have to do anything together, but we do have to live together. Yeah, my husband always says that to me. You know what you could have said there, Kathleen? Nothing. And that's exactly it. We have to live together. I don't have to say anything to you. But again, we move forward. We do have to find out what happened, right? Get that story from several sources, people who witnessed it, people who know these individuals. And I think this is a hard one. Listening without blaming. That's so hard. That bully's talking to you. We're asking the why. We're trying to get to the root of it. And either explicitly or implicitly, do we have bias? You betcha. We absolutely do because we're seeing this person bully, and it's hard not to have some level of implicit bias related to that. So again, we have to be really cautious that we don't blame. We're there to listen. We're there to get to the why. And again, sometimes it's really hard to get that whole story. Don't call it bullying. Don't use inflammatory language while you are fact finding, because again, that's going to backfire to us. We're not going to get the whole story. So again, I think some of those are pretty basic. Being silent can be really helpful when they're on a rant. I could not agree more. I teach another session having nothing to do with bullying, but it's on customer service. And we call that person the grenade, or we call them the tank, as it's the language in customer service language. And they're just exploding at you, right? First, stop them, get their attention, but just listen. We call that grievance patrol. Just listen to what they're saying. Sometimes write it down. Oftentimes, the first thing that they start yelling and screaming about is the thing that's really bothering them the most. And it's something that maybe we can address. So, again, listen with your heart. Okay, so a couple more slides here, and I want to get into some case studies. Deontology, I'm not going to get into this in a great level of detail, but I think this is intuitive to all of us. We got into this as a calling, right? We have an obligation in our environment to have others feel welcome. Deontology is just taking that high road, treating people the way you want to be treated. So hopefully it's the golden rule, right? That perhaps we can teach to others. So our takeaways, again, I think we've said this, let's try to halt this behavior, intervene before it even starts, remembering that people may not speak out and tell us that these things are happening, but we want to give them a safe place to do so. And along with that, training all of our staff at a level that's appropriate for them is critical. Okay, keyboard warriors, get ready for your chat. Here we go. These are all real stories, and I think we have enough time to go through them all. First one, there's a click system, and it goes beyond just seat saving. At activities, in the dining room, in a day space, whatever, the unwanted are turned away from the tables in the cafeteria. It's come to yelling, it's come to fistfights at times. What would you do? Give me some ideas. What do you think you would do here? And I'll just pause for folks to type in. And I'm going to open up my chat. Okay, so somebody said rearrange the cafeteria tables. I think we could definitely do that. Rearrange the seating arrangement, or maybe keeping tables a little bit further apart. Somebody else said we arrange the tables. Interview them individually. Request it in writing. Address it in writing. So yeah, so to that person who is being excluded, let's get that story. Let's address that. What else? What else might you do? I think at a bare minimum, it's come to yelling and fist fights. Give me a break. That is, I think, where we again have to pull that person aside and say, yeah, put those abusers on probation or restriction. 100%. You have violated our community standards. And I'm going to say this, that again, I don't know that we are as always as strict as we should be. If there are fistfights, call the police. That is not okay. I 100% agree. We need to be able to say, this is not okay. I'm putting you on probation. I'm suspending whatever privilege, whatever that happens to be. It continues. We're gonna kick you out. That's where we're at. And sometimes we have to have that, what do we call it? Tough love, right? This one is a real tough one. This is absolutely 100% true story. A Jewish individual senior housing wakes up every morning. Hate-filled propaganda, swastikas drawn on the door, and photos of Hitler slid under the door. What do you do? Absolutely one in this, the names and details have been changed just a little bit. Thank you, cameras. That is, I will tell you, in this situation, this was happening in the middle of the night. This was a narcissistic bully, and they did put in cameras. They did. To figure out who it was that was doing this. Anybody else have any thoughts? Cameras are a big one there. I don't know if anybody's typing while we go. and I can hang out, but interview the neighbors for sure, see what else is going on. Um, and the camera was a big thing. And I will tell you, the person who did it was removed from the community, and I do believe that charges were pressed. So taking that next level. There's a group of women who use any excuse to gossip and spread rumors about other specific women. Others within the community are beginning to believe what they say, and they are shunning these people. So, what do you do here? This happens all the time. You betcha. It sure does. We tell stories, and we see this all the time in stories that are absolutely not true. So, what are we doing about it? Call them out on their behavior. You betcha. I would come back to this person with, how would you like it if they said this about you? Empower that victim. You betcha. I love what was that one quip that, oh, talking about my life is clearly way more exciting than living your own. I'm glad I'm giving you some fodder here. Empower them. Come back with something. Speak to them. How would you feel if this were happening to you or a loved one, what have you? Okay, I think play the telephone game. Oh, I love that. Thank you. Play the telephone game in an event just to show how that message changes as the voice progresses. 100%. Something that started out maybe very innocently is no longer the case. Create and distribute a memo. And I would agree. This is something where, again, we come back to, this is not how we treat other people. We're not going to accept this. And maybe it is a policy, maybe it's a poster, maybe it's a memo, maybe it's something in your newsletter. It's a wellness topic. There's a lot of different things we can do here. Another real story at a senior high rise. There's no assigned parking spaces, but there's this woman. She sees herself as the queen of the parking garage. You cross her, you say something about her, you park in her space, whatever. There's no assigned spaces, but she considers this her parking space. She keys your car. What do you do? And I'm going to pause for a moment, take a sip of water. I agree. I agree for the folks who are saying this, and this just happened. Wow. I feel so bad for you guys. Really, I do. Report the incident to security, report it to HR, bring it to the police, what have you, because now I am damaging property. That's going beyond. Yeah, and we see that. We are seeing assault and battery damage, what have you, and that goes beyond us. And again, press those charges. Invite the local police. Oh, I love that idea. Invite the local police to meet with that resident, to meet with your whole group. What do they call it? Scared straight or something? Bring them in and yeah, for sure, have those conversations. That's a great idea. It's a great idea. Okay, last one. Another real situation. This was happening in a community in California. Two men, both from different branches of the United States military, have taken it past that good-natured ribbing. They are squabbling, they are fighting. It's now made other people feel very uncomfortable in the community. What do you do? What do you do? And I will tell you, this was honestly, have them stand at attention. I love that. That's so funny. This was actually Army versus Navy. So I know that doesn't surprise anybody. That is really funny. Try an intervention, you betcha. Meet with them individually. Then, if appropriate, together, of course, invoke their code of conduct. Oh, call in the VA, another great example of, hey, gosh, you guys have lived this your whole lives, but this is taking it too far. They probably, and I will tell you, in this situation, this particular community, they were men. These two men just had no idea the impact that they were having on other people. So it really came back to what we said earlier about perspective taking. Put yourself in, somebody else's shoes, and they're like, "Wow, we didn't realize that this was happening, or people felt this way." So, really, really great ideas. I do appreciate that. Okay, set a clock by me, really. We are just at the top of the hour. So have a presentation on bullying to support and educate residents. Yeah, it'll help all residents in case bullying is not being reported. I 100% agree with that. We've talked about staff education, but I think really it's to everyone within that community. We all have to be able to report it and know what it looks like. Sometimes we see something, they're like, is it bullying? Is it not? Again, if you see something, say something, do something about it. But I think continuing to have these conversations and just what you all did, you brainstorm amongst yourselves. What's worked, what's not worked, how can we handle this? I think that's how we truly can get a handle on it and get it to stop. So I'll entertain some questions. I don't mind hanging on if you have any. I do appreciate you guys being here. Again, I will make sure that everybody gets a copy of the slides. And if you don't have questions, I really do thank you for your participation. I will turn it back over to Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Kathleen. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you being here. Again, very practical. Thank you so much for going through that with us for the last hour. And absolutely, we can hold on for a few minutes. If anybody has any questions, you can stay on. Next month on September the 18th, our topic will be building and sustaining diversity efforts. So looking forward to that conversation next month for September. I hope everybody has a great rest of the month and we will see you again soon. But again, if anybody would like to stay on, I'm happy to keep the Zoom open for a little longer. So
I
thank
see a
you
lot
all
of
so much.
comments, but no questions yet. So
Okay,
thank you
great.
all for being here. And thank you to Leading Age Maryland for hosting. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.